Check. Check. Mic check. Let's throw some music on. Some musica. Where is this music? here, Paul? Paul Rodriguez, you in the stream? Put something in the chat if you are.
Hello everyone, welcome back.
If anybody's in the stream, please let me know. Paul, you in here? Saw your message. Please let me know if anyone's in the chat. I will live chart whatever stock your heart desires. Please let me know if you're in the chat. See, someone hopped in. You in here, Paul? I saw you put a message. Please put something in the chat. Need anybody in the chat? Please let me know if you want me to cover a stock. Anybody in the chat? Please let me know if you want me to cover a stock. Oh, there we go. Just got in. What is up, man? Let me make sure I remember which two. SoFi. You have a preference of one I do before the other? If not, I'll just start wherever. Start with SoFi. Does that work? Are you good? No need to say sorry, man. I just was waiting to see if you responded. We can jump into SoFi, do some live charting on it. So I kind of covered in my Friday video. If you didn't watch that yet, not really. I have them both. Gotcha. I covered them in my video on my channel. I covered SoFi on that video. I didn't cover PSFE, PaySafe, but we can go ahead and start running through this one just to see if there's anything we should look out for. So right now it just seems like small cap, mid cap. I think you still consider this kind of a small to mid cap name, and comparing them to the big names. Right now, just like the Facebook and the Googles of the world are really just outperforming the market holistically speaking. So we're gonna have to see if names like PaySafe and others start to move up next week or not. They haven't been moving lately. You know, I would say the majority of stocks that I've covered on my channel so far, they all kind of look like this. They all come down from the peak, and they all shot up, and they're all starting to turn over. And so I think it's like a decision time for, I would say, all of these stocks, all of these really popular names that people like to follow, like the retail investors more specifically. And so for SoFi, I would say that the first thing that's looking a little less positive, let's see if I have a 100-day on here. Are you, for context, Paul, are you trading this short term or long term SoFi? Is it just kind of like a swing trade, or are you trying to hold this a little bit longer? Sweet, I gotcha. Okay. So yeah, as I mentioned, well, I think next week is going to be a really big decision week for a lot of these kind of names. I do love their platform though. Yeah, they are. I definitely think that, you know, I don't know, you call it the unbanking in a sense, where people are, you know, obviously they do like refinancing and things like that, or but they're also starting, you know, the crypto side of things and their digital wallets. And so there's definitely this move towards digital, I don't know if you want to call it digital banking yet, or digital finance. But yeah, I would say the first thing I would say is I got it when it was a SPAC. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, so as I was mentioning, like, I think next week is going to be a really important decision week for a lot of these names, SPACs included. So SPACs, a lot of the ones that have already reverse merged, and a lot of these popular names like NNDM, PLTR, all of these stocks have a very similar chart. And so it's going to be interesting to see what they do from here. Kind of like when we look at a couple things we're going to want to watch out for this stock. Let's just draw some trend lines so we know where resistance could be coming up, just to kind of figure out where support could be. I like this long term, like a lot of these names that kind of reverse merged on the SPACs, their valuations are just so high, which makes me less hesitant to like long term hold them right now. That's why I also bought PaySafe back in the day, but I sold them out on the jump, on the push up higher, because I'm just having a little bit of struggle right now with these names, with their price action. I broke like about even on it. I'm in at 19. Oh, okay, okay. So you're not down too much. I'm on daily, yeah. Yeah, so a couple things. So the first thing I would say is, if we're talking about more swing tradey like that, if the upward momentum has been lost yet or not. So the first thing is like how it's looking structurally. So we can see it's kind of retesting this breakout area. Let's zoom in a little bit. I don't need this chart. This opened up. But we kind of see it. I'm here. It's got a P value at $35. I think the PE is higher than that. Let me see. Let's take a peek. Yeah, I don't think they're profitable yet. So if they're not profitable, I don't think they can have a PE ratio. You have to have a net income, I believe, to have a PE ratio. Yeah, from what I'm seeing, they're not profitable yet. So I don't think they have a PE. Typically, you need to have a net income. You have to have earnings basically to have a net to have a PE ratio. And I believe it would be higher than $35 if they did have a PE ratio. What's the stock valuation? It's like 8 billion or something. 14 billion, yeah. 14 billion market cap and 500 million of sales. The valuation is one of the, I would say, some of the worst that I've seen. What's up, Holmes? Happy Independence Day, man. Yeah, I hopped on today just to see if anybody was wanting to swing by, even though it's 4th of July. But I'll be on tomorrow night as well. If you're gonna go crack some fireworks or something, or go watch some fireworks. But yep, I'll still be doing some charting tonight. Yeah, but SoFi is just, I think the valuation is ridiculous at this point, and so that's why long term it's not something, doesn't mean it can't go up more, but that's my main issue. But I think we are at a point where, like a lot of these stocks, it's gonna make a decision this next week of, cause let's do another Drawly. This one doesn't really have it as much, but some people might consider this a lower high. Imagine this was, and so we were gonna want to see something like this to kind of keep that higher lows pattern, but it broke. It's kind of a higher low, a start of one. I just got home, went to visit my daughter today. She is doing summer credits at university. Oh, nice, man. Just already have my fun. I've never been a big 4th of July guy. It's just, maybe as a kid I thought it was cool, but now it's just kind of boring. Maybe I just don't have patience or something to watch the fireworks. So I think if we're gonna see this pattern, because this is what I've seen with a lot of things, they've come up and they're hitting this little curl here, and a lot of stocks have come back to their main, I would say, support line. A lot of stocks are in a very similar place. On my video on my channel on Friday, I kind of cover this of like, they've all kind of come back to this main first support area. Some of them broke out above their, I guess you'd call it the point where they first broke down, because a lot of stocks had this initial rise during February, and then they broke down below this main point here, and that was like the start of a downturn for a lot of these smaller, or these kind of more speculative names, these high growth. And then some of these stocks have broke back above it, but then they started going sideways, and I saw that with a lot of charts, and that's why I was holding off on purchasing some of these, because I just didn't see the momentum that looked like a lot of these were going to break out, and SoFi was one of them. And so I think there's some important support lines coming up on this. Obviously, we're at around the support line. We are now above, or we're below the 50 and 100 day, which is a little more bearish. And we have so something I always like to look at is when these SMAs cross. One of these is an EMA. Let's go at MA just to make sure that this is still valid. 50 day. Make sure I'm telling you the correct story here. Okay, so they're more recently crossing. But one thing I always try to look for is when I see these MAs cross. And so we'll have to see if this MA cross is a confirmation of a change of trend, or if these things cross back over. So I always say this, but for more long-term bullishness of a stock, you want the 200-day, 100-day, 50-day stacked in that order, and you want the stock above that. When you start seeing that pattern change, it might be showing a shift in momentum. So we'll use the first example right here. We saw that the 50-day finally went back below the 100-day, and that was showing some bullish momentum or positive momentum was going into the stock, and we saw it go back up. but now we're seeing this cross back over the other way, which could be indicating negative momentum. But it's still really early, so I don't think we have all the details to truly understand if that pattern is going to continue, because those two SMAs could cross back the other way and look healthier again. I'll get to that in a second, Steve. So, I mean, if we try to find some trend lines, we can try to get an idea of what areas the stock needs to hold to continue the uptrend, or where it needs to break out to go back into an uptrend. 24.95. Okay, thanks. I'll keep an eye on this for upcoming weeks. Yeah. So yeah, just draw some trend lines. Like, it looks like this trend line is probably going to break back to the upside, but I would say around this 1980 range is where we want to break back above. And the reason I say that is this is the range where it broke down below initially. Like to see at 23. I feel ya. So before it couldn't break out of this 1980 range, and it failed to break out, and then here it had struggle around that 1980, and then it finally broke out, but then we had a fail breakout back to the downside below that major resistance. And so we're going to want to see this either hit one of these support lines around this $18-17 range and move back above that 1980. If it doesn't break above that 1980 in the short term, then, and we have these SMAs stay in the direction they are, and we see that RSI can't get back above 50, then that's kind of, there's a lot of negatives pointing, but we're going to have to see some big volume come in next week to really get a lot of these more speculative names back into a more positive momentum. But I'll go to, what was the other one? Shoot, brain fart. I had 2 margaritas today. I'm on a little brain fart. What is the other stock? The other stock. What's the one the other wanted me to call, Paul? PaySafe, PSFE. Okay, so you still here, Pablo? Cool. And then Steve, I'll get to that stock after this. So I mentioned it in my video when I made on Chill Deal Trades. If you haven't subscribed to Chill Deal Trades yet, go subscribe. I put daily videos on there. All the support is appreciated. If you're in the stream and you haven't subscribed yet, I think everyone here are the usuals. So you guys are probably subscribed, but if there's anyone new, go subscribe to the page. So kind of in my video when I made on PaySafe, I said it looked like there was this move up was kind of a short squeeze based on the short interest I was seeing at that time. And I said I don't like when I see big gaps created to the upside, because we technically had a gap here. I have now love to support. I have now love to support. Thanks. Not sure what that means. But we did see that it closed the gap here on those big candles, which was what I was kind of looking for. And that's why I sold out on that move higher, because I saw it fill one gap, and on the second day I didn't see enough positive momentum in the stock, because I sold out on this first day, I think around 12 something, and then I was looking for volume to come in that second day, and I didn't see it come in, and so I was like, there's not enough momentum to push this thing higher, or at least it didn't look like that. Oh, I subscribed, huh? I appreciate the sub, man. Yeah, you guys have been killing it on the support, so I really appreciate it. But we filled that gap, and then it just didn't have enough volume to push it any higher, and that's why I started considering that this gap was going to get filled here, and that's exactly what it did. So Is this a swing trade for you, Paul, or just long term? But it depends. Gotcha. Yeah, so what's really interesting with this push higher too when I look at RSI, so RSI is something I think this company has upside. I agree in the long term. On the short term, I'm not too sure based on how trends are looking. So, like I mentioned before, when we see this cross right here on the MAs, which that's showing more risk of downside. We could see these converge a little bit more because they are so spread out, which could cause the price maybe to come up a little bit. But we would need to see this start trending up a little bit for that to happen. But on the move higher, something to note, this is the first thing I always look at to determine if a stock is in a more bullish or bearish phase is where RSI is. So as I said, typically you see stocks in a bullish phase when RSI is staying above that 50 range. As long as you don't see a change in that pattern, which we see here, even on the squeeze higher, the RSI didn't break above, which is still showing a negative momentum. But I think one thing we're gonna have to see next week is if we see RSI break below this and come back down, we probably will have some more negative momentum. But if it kind of bounces off this trend line and tries to break out above to the upside, but it's going to need a lot of volume in the short term for that to happen. We're just going to need a lot of buying pressure because there's a lot of, I would say this chart is showing more negative momentum than positive momentum at this current time, just based on all the indices. But we do have a pretty big support range. Obviously, all these SPACs, even the ones that have already reverse merged, they still find a lot of support around that 10 range. So we're at 11. We're still up at $11.50, which isn't so great, but we have a lot of support in this area, which is kind of where we're at. So 1130 to 1090 in that range, we have a lot of support. So we'll have to see if the stock can hold that support next week. If it can hold that support, then there is a chance that it can turn back up and try to break above this, give another try of breaking out above this trend line. So that's something you're going to want to keep an eye on, is if we bounce off that 11, say we're at 1140 to 1040, is that what I said? 1140 to 1090 range. There's just a lot of accumulation and support right there. Let me see if there's any other trend lines that could be. There's a lot of positives to stock. They have really great management, which is something I always look at for more long-term plays. They definitely have some positives in the long term, but I believe I mentioned it last week when I covered PaySafe on Sunday as well. The only thing I don't love is that the revenue, when you look at revenue, it really hasn't been growing very much. Let me bring up estimates for PaySafe. Yeah, that's kind of the range you're going to want to keep an eye on for. Let me open up this platform real quick to see where revenue estimates are moving forward. Because when you look at the company's growth as of today, over the last couple years, their revenue really hasn't grown very much for a company with this much with this high of a valuation with a company that has a big gap between revenue and and market cap. I really like to see there to be a pretty high level of growth for the company. And so this is my only concern. Let me switch my screens real quick. So this is my only concern is, okay, that's not working. One second, let me get this thing fixed. Every week it makes me redo Chrome, which is really annoying. It doesn't make any sense. One second, bro. Yeah, I saw the revenue has slowed. Yeah, that's the issue. I really love the stock, and I think anything in this kind of digital wallet, digital payments, online, pay or online gaming, I really like that space, and I think it's going to have a lot of growth. And that's just my main concern is that we haven't seen that growth. Okay, what the hell is going on here, bruh? That's not Chrome, dude. Sorry, I'm having some issues with this stream. One second, bro. I'm trying to bring up this revenue growth chart so we can take a peek at it. I want to open up Chrome. There we go. That should be it. Cool. Sweetness. Okay. I guess I was doing that all on stream. Whatever. I'll hold if it has a future. What do you think? Okay, let me zoom in here a little bit. So this is my main concern is the growth expectations. So so they have an 8 billion market cap, or 9 billion about at this price. They have yearly revenue of about 1.4 billion, and they don't make any money yet. So seeing 8 billion with this much revenue and not any income is like, with a company that has that large of a discrepancy between sales or income and market cap, the thing that I want to see that company growing like 30% at least a year. Because you look at companies like, large companies like Facebook, they grow like 30% a year. Why couldn't a company this small grow 30% a year? And so based on the expectations for the stock, that's where a lot of my concern is. And when we look at the estimates here, it's like this year they're only expecting an 8% growth. Next year they're expecting a 10% growth over the prior year. And so I'm not very excited about those growth rates. I think that's where a lot of my concern is with it. I think when we look at here, I guess this doesn't have fully built out EBITDA and stuff, but it looks like they are expecting some to have a positive EBITDA next year, which I think is a really big, I would say a really big positive for this company. If they can end up squeezing out some net income, I think that $8 billion valuation doesn't sound as bad. I still don't love it, but it doesn't sound as bad. So they can start getting a positive EBITDA and showing a little bit of net income on their balance sheet, then I like that. I do think that there's a possibility, like gross margins. I love 60% gross margins. That's another positive. See with their net. Yeah, there's some issues. See if I have ratios on here. Nope. Okay, I don't have a lot of info because they're such a new company that they don't have a ton of data on them. Oh, here we go. 65 future PE ratio, which is a little bit. I mean, PayPal's at 59%, but PayPal also makes money. Square, that's just ridiculous. I don't want to talk about that one. But if they can squeeze out some some net income this year and next year. I think that does help solidify that the business can make money. But I still want to see revenue growth. I would rather see a 20 to 30% year-over-year revenue growth than a 10%. That 10% just doesn't get me excited. And so I would really prefer for that to be a little higher. And I think that I have a little bit more bearish sentiment, coming over the next few months. And so seeing the markets break out of all-time highs, but seeing this struggle a lot is worrisome to me. So I mean, it's so hard to predict what's going to happen, but all I can say is there's a lot of things that aren't looking very positive on the charts. So until some of these things, make themselves look better in the short term, then I would maybe be a buyer. But if we do see, say, in the next 3 weeks, the market have a little correction, this could definitely go below $10, in my personal opinion. But that's just guessing. You can never know what's going to happen in the market. But this could have some more downside if we do see the markets pull back a little bit, which the SPY and NASDAQ are just blowing off top right now and going basically parabolic. I think they moved like 5% in the last week and a half, and so I always feel like those things are tendencies before we have some kind of minor correction. Nothing too big, like 10% at most ish. But if we do have a market correction, then I think these things that are already showing weakness can potentially showing more weakness. Yeah, I can go into. I'll get. If you're gonna stick around, I'll get to SPY in a second, just to kind of tell you what I'm looking at for the overall markets. Mr. Steve, are you still here? Curious. I'll pop to your stock if you're still here, Steve. Yes, sir. Okay. So you want me to cover RMIN, or you want me to cover this XELA stock? Market correction, what do you think's happen? Yeah, I think we're getting vulnerable around the end of the month. So we could easily have a couple more weeks of pretty violent upside, because we did see the markets break out of a sideways consolidation, which you're just showing a lot of buying momentum behind that breakout. And so that could still last a couple weeks, potentially. But yeah, I would say somewhere towards the end of the month, there's more vulnerability in the markets. But Steve, which one did you want me to cover that you talked about? You put 2 in there. MRN, gotcha. I think it's straightforward squeeze. Could touch on it. Be more interested. Yeah, I'm assuming with this squeeze, yeah, everything's oversold looking. Why did any reason they got squeezed? Did they release news or something? Let me look up the news. Integration with Installer, gotcha. Instacart, gotcha. Let me. Where's Mr. Google at? Let me look at. Is it just a swing trade for you? You said you're riding the short squeeze, so I'm assuming that means you're just a short-term holder. And then where'd you buy at? I'm curious. Yeah, probably holding some long. Gotcha. Where'd you buy at? Bought at 5. Oh, okay. Oh yeah, bro. So here's my advice is whenever there's something that goes pretty parabolic, I would say after a move like this, there's risk. You never know what's going to happen. This could totally get squeezed higher. And so I don't think it's about taking all the risk off the table. I think it's more about mitigating your risk and taking profit, some profit. And so if you're at $5, there's a lot of, I would say there's more negatives than positive on the chart. The only positive is momentum. Every other indicator is expressing more negativity. What's up, man? First time watcher. You a day swing trader. How long have you been trading? Yeah, I started trading in 2012. I used to day trade for a while, just to give a go at it straight, like 10, 12 hours a day. Just wasn't my thing. I didn't have enough passion to trade that frequently. So I just do mostly swing trades now. But thanks for coming by, man. Appreciate it. But yeah, I would say that the only positive on this stock is momentum. Let's take a look at short interest, if it has fallen off or if it's still hanging around. Because I think that's going to be something is going to be important to try to figure out if this stock is going to go up or if there's a potential for it to slow down. So yeah, it still looks like there's pretty heavy to the downside. Yeah, that's pretty, dude. So I'm looking potential 60 to 7. Okay, so I'm looking for potentially 67 price target. Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, so I would say, okay, so technically speaking, the charts are expressing obviously way overbought, but I think you know that it's gone from $4 to $20 in a very, in like 6 days or something. So technically speaking, like, you obviously know that it's in an overbought territory. It doesn't mean it can continue to go up, but what I like to do when there's times where I've bought stocks that have gone that parabolic, have moved that parabolic, is taking some of the profits on the table. If that's your strategy, if you still want to, like, I think you said you're kind of long on this. So if you have that conviction of, like, you know what, I want to hold this stock for the next 5 years. Like, I don't care if it goes up and down, then, hold on to everything. But I always like when something moves this drastically and you're up 200%, like taking some of that profit. So I think there's a few strategies. It's like, I would say a more aggressive strategy is whatever your initial investment was. Yeah, it's super volatile. What I invested, I've already pulled. Oh, beautiful. Yeah, that was gonna be my first advice. Yep, and Holmes is like the other idea. Is I think the first strategy you said, just take your initial investment off the table so that you're just playing with the house's money. And then yeah, I think Holmes is definitely arising like another perspective of, some people like to do in fourths, selling out half, a fourth of your position or half of your position. I mean, we can look more technically at the charts to figure out, oh man, I gotta go way low on this. Let me bring down these moving averages. Let's go and get technical. Well, we can leave the 50 up. That might give us a good idea of any trend change. Let's go to the hour. Nope. Okay, so I would say another strategy is to put like either stop losses or a trailing stop loss on some of your positions if you do want to protect some of your gains. So like looking at the charts, around this, not exactly, because volatile stocks will sometimes trick people and break below supports and then go back up, but around this 1818 is a pretty significant support. And obviously you just see here is there's a breakout here, that tried to break out here, and then when it gapped up, that's where it got into this space. So if it breaks down below, that's obviously going to show a lot of negative momentum. And then so there's definitely an opportunity for this gap fill around 17 or a bounce off this 20 MA. So more short term, it's hard. Some people like to use like 8. This might even be better to use an exponential moving average, but it's probably around the same price. you see where the exponential moving averages are. What does SPAG do? That's going to merge with Matterport. Yeah, I'll get to that in a minute. I think we talked about that last week too. Okay, so we're testing 9-day, 8-day, same thing. So we are testing on the 8-day EMA. So I think that's an important thing to hold when you're speaking more short-term time points. People like to see, I mean, you can see the chart here. Let's just look historically speaking. You know, it pulled away from the 8 EMA. It came back. It pulled away from the 8. It touched it. It pulled away, broke below, and then back. It likes to touch the 8 EMA, and so we're either seeing another bounce off of this to the upside, and if it does bounce off this 8 EMA, then I would say somewhere around this 22 to, what's this price range? 2180 to 22, like that dollar, 2180 to 2280 is probably going to be a significant area of resistance if we do bounce off this 8 EMA. And it did look like it tried to bounce off that. And then you obviously have the support around that 1890 range. Let's see where the 20-day is and how the stock likes to interact with the 20-day. Okay, man, these are too close in color. Is this helpful for you, what I'm covering now? If it's not, I'll move on to something else, but is breaking down this intricate helpful? And so when we look at the 20-day EMA, you know, where that gap fill is, we also have the 20-day EMA. And so we've been hovering away from that 20-day for pretty long. And so it looks like unless it pulls away very significantly, it doesn't come back and test that, generally speaking. And we do have a pretty far pull away from the 20 EMA. And so we could see a pullback to that gap and 20-day EMA and then figure out what happens from there. So those are some of the more short-term things I would think of. And yeah, I think it's at this point, because you've had such a gain on the stock, it's about mitigating your risk. So either setting stop losses or setting trailing stop losses if you want to protect more of your gains. These stocks are really volatile, so stop losses are sometimes difficult. But maybe a trailing stop loss could be a better strategy. But I think those are some of the price points you're going to want to look out for. And like I said, when it pulls away pretty drastically from the 20-day, it does like to come back and test. It's already tested the 8 EMA, so we'll have to see if it wants to come back and fill this gap and test the 20-day EMA. So those are some things I would look out for, and that's personally what I would be looking for. Any other questions on that before I move to the next one? Which I think is XELA. And while he answers, if you haven't gone to and subscribed to my YouTube page yet, please do. I started about a month ago, and a lot of the people in the chat have been supporting me with the subs, so that's been muchly appreciated. But anything else that you want covered on this one? If not, I'll go to the next one. I think we have some good strategies around that stock. But long term, when I was looking at it, like, there's super low market cap, couple $100 million. Its revenue obviously is pretty low, but that's given with such a small company. It'd be more, for a long-term hold, I would be more interested in its growth rate. But let's see what analysts have to say about this. Nope, no analysts. Data makes sense. It's a small company. Okay, I don't know if he's in the chat anymore. Steve, you still here? No. And 1, 2. I'm gonna count to 5. If not, move on to the next thing. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, seis. I actually counted to 6. I got carried away. GHVI. Why is this not coming up? Let's see if Matterpoint comes up. Matterpoint is the Pablo. You still there? Yeah, I think I see your name in there. Pablo. Can y'all hear me out here? Testing. Yeah, my mic's working. Yeah, Holmes, didn't we talk about that last week? I don't know why it's not coming up on here. Thanks for breaking that down on that thing. This is the real estate. Is that what this one is? The 3D real estate stuff? Thank you, Holmes. MVP as usual. Paulo, is it the real estate stuff? I have moved funds from. Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, it's super hyped up name, which obviously will give the stock some positive momentum. Thoughts on Bitcoin? Yeah, I'll cover Bitcoin in a second. I can definitely do that. We're going to cover this matter real quick. I feel like it should have never done. I feel like that I should never have done that. I mean, there's a lot of hype around it, so I don't remember this one, HQ in Boulder. Yeah, so this stock's getting has got a lot of hype. One for the management or the people who took this merger public or reverse merged. It's cool technology. I think it's cool what they're doing. I don't know how. Is it a swing trade or is it a long-term hold for you, Pablo? Hi, Deck. Detox. What's up, Detox? Swing trade long-term, Pablo. Long-term, gotcha. Let's see if I can find some. Uh, 3D imaging, yeah, in the future, yeah. It's basically like 3D imaging for real estate is what I got from it. Let's see if I can find some revenue expectations, Matterpoint. Let's see when their merger date is. Second quarter, so soon. Should I study the analyst stuff or the arbitrage books? Watch YouTube videos. Should I study the analyst stuff? What do you mean by analyst stuff? But I would just suggest go on YouTube, find videos on moving averages. 2 weeks. Okay, that's soon. Go on YouTube, watch videos about moving averages, RSI, and trend lines and support and resistance. And that's a great place to start. It can be overwhelming, so I always just suggest people to start off simple, which is RSI, trend lines, moving averages, support and resistance, things like that. I'm trying to find an article. If anybody in the chat can find an article on their revenue expectations, and their, because I don't know what their valuation and stuff is at right now. I mean, we can look at it technically while if someone in the chat wants to find an article and post it. But it looks like this company has held up. Volume price analysis is good, solid foundation. Yeah. Volume is very important for a stock. So kind of like, Pablo, if you remember when we were looking at, I think both PaySafe and SoFi, the one thing we saw in those stocks is that it was testing a major support area. You know, I think the other stocks were around this point. and it looks like this stock has bounced off that point, which is, I would say, a positive. But in the short term, it still has had a hard time around this area, which is another important, you always try to just look for these rangy consolidation areas. That's what when I look at a chart, and those areas will tell me the prices that it needs to hold or break out above. Valuation is pretty solid. What's 2021 revenue outlook? I'm assuming don't have any net income yet versus their valuation. How do hedge funds and PE funds compete for tech companies? I'm not sure what you mean. What's a good entry point? Here, apparently they'll have competitive deals for raising money. Holmes, I don't understand the question, so Holmes, feel free to give your perspective on there. You have good perspective on things. I don't know if you're talking about the private market, or I'm not sure what you mean by that with hedge funds. The stock is showing definitely some positive momentum still. It hasn't broken down. If I compare it to other stocks, like it's staying above that 50 range, which is what we've kind of talked about with the other stocks that, SoFi and the other ones are down here, while this one has held up more, which is a big positive for the stock. But we still need I would say it depends if you want to do a dip buy strategy or buy a breakout strategy. So we really need a break and hold above this 1620 range. As you can see, this is where the stock decided to break down when it broke below that price. And then we've, like many of these stocks, every stock that we've covered, it's either broken out and failed the breakout and come back down, or it's tested and failed. And that's what we're seeing with everything. More contrarian. And so the stock needs to break above this 16-ish range, this 1620 range. I would say it's probably at this point, and again, my perspective on the market is a small correction's coming, and that's why I'm holding off on some of these more speculative names. I could be wrong, but that's just my gut on how I'm not really buying a whole lot of new stock companies at the current prices. But just looking at the charts, we started a new downtrend off this candle, so I would say we're going to want to see a break above that 1620 and a break above this, and then we're going to want to see something like this coming back and testing the trend line above that 1620 range to see a positive momentum continue in the stock. Those are just a couple technical things that I would want to see to make me feel comfortable about buying this long term. Let me see if we have a price range or not. No price range really. Yeah, that doesn't count. To the downside, we have a lot of support. I don't want to do 20 days anymore. Let's do 50 days. Thanks, bro. I'll just pull and sit on the silent for a bit. It's all good, man. No one's asking me other questions, so until someone else asks me about a stock, then you're the only one asking, so you're the one that gets your stock covered. I think the guy from earlier, I forgot his name already. I think he bounced, Steve. I think Steve bounced, so if he's not here, I'm not going to cover his stock that he asked for. That's just a waste of time. So dip buy, if we hold this price range, I think this is pretty important. As if we hold this, say 1530 range, then I would say a pretty high probability that we come back up and break above this 1620, because there's also pretty significant support in that range. I have a question. Why does a company go up on filing an F2? That's a filing for an offering, correct? Doesn't that usually make them go down? Yeah. I have a question. Why does a company go up it's a great phenomenon. So sometimes companies can do like, I guess, public offerings, but hedge funds or financial institutions can buy up the shares that they offer, and so that can sometimes cause positive momentum. One of the great examples is NNDM. So they did like 4 or 5 offerings as their price was moving higher. Obviously, it was like the Cathie Wood momentum was really pushing that stock higher, and that was when Cathie Wood was on fire and everybody was basically buying stocks that she said to buy. And so there's times where either there's enough momentum behind the stock to keep it going higher, or you'll have companies, hedge funds buying up the offerings, which if you buy up the float of the offering, all you need is additional. Then they file. Yeah. Marine says board of director declared dividend of 1 preferred share. Yeah. Dividend of 1 preferred share purchase rights for each of the house. Yeah, dude, they make these things so confusing sometimes. I mean, if the company's moved up significantly, then they're obviously going to raise money because they can and to help, continue growth. Do you think it's best to move in value stocks at this point? I'm heavily invested in Apple. It depends your strategy with Apple. I think personally, I think Apple is transitioning from a growth tech to a value name. I think they're in the beginning stages of that evolution. Personally, obviously they're still seeing growth, but I think that growth is going to start to diminish, in my opinion. Obviously, they say they're going to make a car, which might open up another revenue stream. But I think Apple's slowly becoming a more quote-unquote value. They're still tech and they're still growing, but I think they're transitioning into more of like a value play. The thing with a lot of these big names right now is when I look at where the market is overvalued, names like Facebook, Apple, Google, Microsoft, I'm trying to think of some other ones, Intel, that's more of maybe blue chip at this point, but these are the stocks, in my opinion, that aren't as overvalued as other names in the stock. Like when I look at Apple, they're at a 31 PE ratio. Like, let's see what if we have a growth expectations on Apple. Like they're expecting to grow 29% this year. Like what the F? Like a company this big and they're, we don't know if they'll hit that number, but they're expecting them to grow 29%. That's ridiculous. That's 29% growth is more than Paysafe, which is quote unquote a growth tech name. And so when I look at these companies, these aren't really the ones that I'm as worried about in the market. I'm worried about these small growth names that all the retail investors are in, that people have poured thousands of dollars into, that are trading on margin, who have call options for PLTR and all these other, and NNDM, whatever they are. Those are the stocks I'm worried about because these are the names that they don't even have PE ratios yet, technically speaking, because they don't make money, or their value or their market cap is, they're like 50 to 100 times revenue, which is just a ridiculous number. And so I think I'm more concerned about the names that we've talked about, like the Paysafes and the SoFis of the world compared to the Apples of the world. That's more of where my perspective is, because I think there is going to be a time where valuation matters more. And obviously 31 is still a little hot for Apple. I don't know, historically speaking, what their PEs have been around, but this is not my main concern in the market. There's other places that I feel have much higher risks of getting destroyed. Yeah, I agree, blue chip. I think they're slowly turning into a value name. I think their growth is eventually gonna slow. I think it's going to be more around this 3% to 5%, 2022 and beyond. I don't think we're going to see, personally speaking, I don't know, they are trying to grow their ads revenue business by having Facebook and other people not able to advertise as much through them, and there's more regulations around data, and so they're kind of pulling some of that data in-house and using it for themselves, which definitely will help spurt growth. But I think their days of exponential growth is over, personally speaking. But any other stocks you guys have questions about? It seems like most of the people left at this point, so nobody new right now. Let me see if I can get some stock Twitters in here. Let's see. Oh, we talking about SPY. I can kind of go through what I'm kind of seeing and my concerns with the indexes and kind of the facts that I've kind of seen that could point to a little correction in the market in the next few weeks. Just SHIB, I'm wondering what that offering is. So they're the ones that, okay, so the thing with SHIB, so I've traded SHIB years ago. I didn't realize I was still on that browser. You're spamming on StockTwits. But so I traded SHIB years ago, like 4 years ago or something. So this is what I think about I can't remember, is SHIB containers, or are they the people that move the containers back and forth? I can't remember if there's a specific business they're in or if it's just holistically speaking. Got it at $1.08 on Friday. Gotcha. Let me spam on StockTwits real quick. Dry bulk shipping, yeah. So back in the day when I traded it, SHIB was known as a pump and dump. So the stock would get pumped, and we'll look at the long-term chart to kind of tell that story. Let me get to the chart. It still kind of is, yeah. So I mean, you can see this disgusting chart. I was day trading it back in 2016 or 17, I think. Maybe it was 18. They had some little pump and dump phase back then. There was like a bunch of hype with the pump and dumps and split, exactly. So there could be a little bit more short-term momentum with these. Mostly they always do share offerings when their stock gets pumped. It's the same story when I traded it years ago. So we'll have to see. What's up, Juan? Appreciate it. Thanks for joining, man. Are you joining for a specific stock, or you just find us randomly? Just curious. Oh, did you talk about SoFi? I talked about it. We can cover it in just a second. If you want to hang around, we'll cover it again just quickly. So it does look like they broke below support. They're below the 150-day EMAs now, which I would say doesn't really matter as much as for you because you're more of a short-term trader, if I remember correctly. So support important, but not really. How big of the share offering was it? Like how many shares? Hey Juan, if you got it, take a second to follow the stream, and if you got a free, if you got a little free Twitch Prime sub, we'd love a sub on the account as well. They haven't said yet. Figures. A bunch of manipulation. It's like short interest. Okay, so short interest has come down quite a bit as of yesterday, historically speaking. Um, so I would say a little less vulnerable to a short squeeze. Because I would say most of, what's that number, Dylan? 300 million? Woo. Jesus Christ. That's probably a lot of shares. That's 300 million shares, right? So it says their float right now is 148 million. So that's going to take their float to 440 million. I'm assuming that the shares were at $1 or something. I don't know if they said. Sup, Diz? Welcome to the stream, man. Any particular stock you're curious about? We're covering SHIP currently. Get out of here, ads. So it does seem like their float's gonna go up pretty significantly. I remember in the past with this company is they always got squeezed because they had a small float and they had a high short interest, and that's what always pushed it up. The dollar amount worth, gotcha. So I don't know when that thing's gonna close, but obviously that's be careful with SHIP, rinse and repeat, offering and reversal. Yeah, Juan, we were just talking about that. We were like, I was telling him I traded this. When I was day trading back in like 2017 or something like that. That's something I was following, and I think I played. It was either SHIP. There was another one of these SHIP names that got short squeezed as well. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but I like played it for a couple hours or something. Can you buy a share on Berkshire stocks? Can you buy a share on Berkshire stocks? I'm not sure what you mean. Yeah, like I think like Juan said, it's like a rinse and repeat type sitch here. Tops, dude, Juan, you know it, bro. It is Tops. That was so great. Yeah, but what about Berkshire Hathaway? I'm confused what you mean. Can you buy, like you're asking me if I can buy a share? You trying to flex on me or something? Let's see. I know that right now with there is some positive momentum with there is some positive momentum with the SHIP. Yeah, Tops. Oh my gosh, bro, that's hilarious. SHIP, Dylan, not shop. There is some positive momentum with shippers because the rates are so high right now. Oh, how can I buy it because it's so expensive? I don't know if you can do it. Yeah, I don't know if Robinhood does fractional shares of that stock. That might be a place where you would want to take a peek. Is on there. So that'd be interesting. Top SHIP for all shippers always do the same offering. I know, dude. Every time the stock goes up, they offer. I don't know what they're doing with that money, obviously. Maybe it's just a dying industry, and so that's what they need to survive. But here's a couple things I would say that are, even though I don't believe in SHIP at all, I don't believe in Tops, I don't even want to mess with that. It is the most expensive stock. Yeah, go on Robinhood. You might be able to buy a little fraction of a share. It's going to be like buying a Bitcoin. It's going to be like 0.0001 or something. But what's really interesting is there has been some people buying into this for some reason. Don't ask me why. This last quarter, which is really strange. Yeah, there's fractional sharing, exactly. How can it be dying ships are constantly selling all over the world? I don't know, dude. I'm not sure how. Maybe it's just a Ponzi scheme. I'm not sure. But if I remember correctly, one of the positives I would say to the shipping industry right now, holistically speaking, is that shipping rates have gone up an insane amount. Let me try to figure out what to look up for this. You can see what I made earlier. I made some St. Louis ribs earlier today. Shipping rates going up. News. See what Google comes with this one. Are you analytical or fundamental? Both. I do a little bit of both. On Sunday streams, we mostly do more technical side of things, but we'll jump into the fundamentals as well. Yeah, they're at all-time highs. I think it was like, they were up like 3,000% or something Shipping container rates. Container. I think that's what I want to look. Let's see if there's any news lately. You're talking 26 safe for a daily chart. That's crazy. Yeah, man, things are still backlogged pretty significantly. So there's been pretty high demand to get things going. And so, yeah, everyone's backlogged with inventory. It's starting to situate itself out, I think, in the economy. And I think we could be heading into some deflationary, more in like macro economics, some like deflationary periods due to all the push of supply. Like Ford and GM have like thousands of cars sitting with no chips. And eventually there's going to be too many chips and not enough car buyers. And so we're going to hit some deflationary moments, but that could still be a little whiles away, maybe 2022 or something. Let's see when was this article? April? Yeah, rates, this is back in April, 25 to 50% higher than a year ago. And I think it's gone even higher. And so when we're talking about shippers, I think that's an interesting perspective. Like for some reason you have some people buying. Obviously it's not a ton of institutional buying, and who knows even why they're buying. When is this? It's not even showing up. Yeah, you have some random people buying like 30K probably. Vert. I just did a stock on Vert on my YouTube channel about being a good long-term hold. That's funny that they bought this. My favorite shipping company. Oh yeah, PXS. I've heard of that one. I think I heard that recently, actually. Let's see how PXS. Let's see if people are diving into this. Into this one. What's on your watch list? Oh yeah, not a whole lot of buying, but definitely have some people buying some shares over the last couple months. What's your watch list? Okay, we're getting a long list here, so I need to stay. Okay, I think the shipping industry is interesting. I would say for over the next 6 months, maybe, until we start maybe hitting some deflationary factors in the economy. So, I mean, roll the dice with ship, I guess, if you want to get even a little more shady buy tops. But yeah, those are my couple thoughts on those. I wouldn't touch those with a 12 full, but on my watch list is if the market breaks down. That's on my watch list. Okay, who asked about SoFi earlier? Who was that? We'll jump back into that one. Thanks for the follow on. Tops is more expensive than ship. Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I maybe would have tried to buy them before the push. You know, back in, that was February high. Maybe this more recent, but I mean, technically speaking, it's not looking so hot. It's broke below the MAs. It broke below this trend line to the upside. We do have pretty major support at $1. Juan. Gotcha. Okay. You're still here. That's good. Good to know that you're still here. But we are around these MAs, so we'll see if it can hold. I mean, maybe it'll pop up next week. The market is going crazy. Are you a day trader? No, I don't day trade anymore. I used to. Back in the Dizzy, I tried it for about a year and a half. I went pretty hard every day, 10 hours a day. Just wasn't my thing. Yeah, I saw that it went up. It said it was up like 10% or something. It hit 121. Nice. Did you win? I did okay. Not a huge win. I think over that year that I did it, I think I maybe made like 10 to 15% on the year. It wasn't anything impressive. And that's why I kind of thought day trading wasn't for me. I don't have enough discipline for day trading. I'm too emotional of a person for day trading. Robot. I'll get to in a second, Robot. If you guys are in the stream also, if you haven't subbed to the page yet or if you haven't liked it, penny stocks dangerous land. Exactly. One. I just don't. You literally need steel chops to day trade penny stocks, and you have to have impeccable discipline. And I'm just not that disciplined of a person. I'm too creative of a person. That's not what I meant to post there. What am I doing? Volatility is where the money's made. I agree. I don't know why I like the big swings. Yeah, I've become more of a swing trader at this point. I've seen more success in my swing trading than I did. That was kind of why I if you're in the chat, please follow my YouTube page if you haven't yet, and please sub and subscribe to the Twitch. The support would be appreciated. Yeah, when I day traded, like swing trading, I've realized that I just make more money and it's just more of my thing. And so that's kind of, I would say, the niche or the type of trading that I've kind of gotten more into. I kind of took like I got married about a year ago, and so I took about like a year and a half off just because I like wedding stuff and there's a lot of life transition, but I've gotten back into trading more on the swing side of things over I would say since COVID. And that's why we started this, is just to find more people who are interested in learning and growing and knowing more about stocks and being successful. Okay, I'm going on a tangent now. Let's get back to the stock. Let's go SoFi. I'm going to cover SoFi real quick. Let me make a little list of all the stocks because I'm going to forget. Text. Where's text? Stocks list. 1 second, guys. I'm just creating a stock list so I can put all the ones. So we have SoFi, and then we'll do what was the next one? I saw CVS. And if you're a sub, you get first priority. So sorry if you're not a sub. People who are subs get the first dibs. What do you say, Holmes? What was the other one you were thinking of? Dog Z. I don't even know what the hell that is, but we'll look at it. Any other ones that I can write down for the list? I have SoFi, CVS, Dog, or DGOZ, GameStop, AMC. And then let me know if you want more technical. Are we looking for more technical or whatever? I'll just ask you when we're there. SoFi, GameStop. What's the name of the chart? What's the name of chart below? CLF. We'll do that for now. Let's see if that shows up or not. Stock list. Okay, where are you, stock list? Are you in white text and that's why I can't see you? That is why. Let's change this real quick. Aha, we have a checklist. Okay, SoFi. Oh, it kept my charts from earlier? Thank the Lord. Okay, so Mr. Juan, SoFi. So I agree with you. Long-term SoFi is a great name. Technical and sentiment moving with both. Gotcha, Pablo. So long-term, I like it. Short-term, I'm more bearish on these names. And it's mostly because of this pattern that's happened lately. So we've seen the stocks break down, come back up, break above the big support, and break back below. And it's kind of testing a lot of the stocks that I've been covering. You can see the stock. I made a video on my YouTube channel on Friday, which I put in the chat. You can look on there as well. Here's my video from Friday. I talk about sentiment with high growth names, kind of like the Russell 2000 type names, and if they're going to continue to underperform the big tech names or not, based on some charts that I pulled. So you can watch that video as well. But this is what I've been seeing is we've seen a lot of charts come back and try to test where they broke out prior. This is almost with all these popular names, SoFi, NND, and PLTR, all these names are basically doing the same thing, and I would say the next 2 weeks are going to be really telling in the short term. So I think in the short term, they're either going to break out or they're going to break down further, or they're going to bounce off of these support levels, break it back above the SMAs, and then try to test. A lot of them have trend lines similar to this, and they're going to test this trend line saying over into the end of July if they do hold up, or they'll just continue to go sideways and test trend lines to figure out where they want to go next. But a lot of stocks in the short term have been testing important support ranges. And so I would say the same story is here. I have this as an EMA again. I need to get the pro version of this because, and I can get the pro version by supporting the stream because then I can buy it for $30 a month. But I talked about this earlier. How much profit did you make in this year? I'm not sure. But this is the area. This is something that I mentioned earlier. I think Pablo was asking me about it. Is you have the MAs crossing again. And so when you have the 50-day above the 100-day and you have the stock price below the SMAs, that's typically a bearish indicator. And so let me list out all the bearish things just to get that out. So the first thing is RSI. And I'm talking, this is more like 1 to 3 month time frame. This is what I'm talking about, 1 to 3 month time frame. So when I speak technically, it's really hard what's going to happen in 9 months because there's so many variabilities. But when I do a technical analysis, I can probably see 1 to 3 months out at most. It's kind of hard to see beyond that, in my personal opinion, because there's too many variables. There's market swings, there's news, there's so many aspects that can have a lot of impact. But in the short term, 1 to 3 months, RSI, it tried to break above the negative momentum and it broke back below. And so for this to gain positive momentum again, I'm going to want to see it break above 50 RSI on a technical standpoint and stay back above this range. And if we see that happen, the stock will continue to the upside. It'll start doing that again. The other negative I just mentioned is we do see the 50-day going back above the 100-day, which we don't have the 100-day here, but you can see the stock price go below the 50-day. And I'm assuming if we had a 100-day, there would have been a cross here in this range, but we didn't have a 100-day yet. And so when we see the 50-day go below the 100-day, that's when we saw it wasn't exactly on point, but that's when we saw the reversal after that. And so I think for here, if the 50-day stays above the 100-day, moving forward, then that's going to be another more bearish indicator in the 1 to 3 month time period, personally speaking. And so that's something that you're going to want to watch out for is the RSI and the simple moving averages. Those are the easiest things. And then this support range. If we can hold this 1780 to 1620 range, if we kind of say we break down a little bit more, but we can, try something sideways here. We still have this really long-term trend line here. Then that could be bullish for the stock. But big important support range. RSI is not looking cute, and the SMAs are showing a little bit more bearish sentiment in the short term. But long term, I agree. I love the idea of digital wallets. They're a big refinancing play. Some people have been talking more negative on the fundamental aspect is with the student loans ending, the forgiveness, or not the forgiveness, but I think it's in September, people have to start paying off their loans again. Some people are saying that could have a negative momentum on the stock because if I remember correctly, SoFi is a really big refinancing platform for students, and they do pull in a lot of revenue through that. So we'll have to see what that September time period, how that September time period impacts the stock, because it could. I'm trying to remember if SoFi was the one as well that in a couple weeks, I think, was it SoFi? Maybe it's PaySafe. people can start selling out of their shares. I can't remember which one it was. It might have been PaySafe. But that's kind of a general overview of the stock. Okay. I will go CVS. Who asked me that? Was that Pablo? Mr. Robot, thanks for the follow. I don't have my headphones on, so I didn't hear it, but I appreciate it. SoFi. Lockup period. Yeah. Is it just passed? Gotcha. I knew it was one or the other. That's what I think they said. It sold off because people were speculating that when the lockup ended that people sold some. I think that's kind of where my mind was. For CVS, are you thinking just technically speaking? Is that what you're looking for, Robot? And thanks for the follow. I appreciate that. I'm going to keep plugging, but if you haven't yet, please go follow my YouTube page, daily YouTube videos of everything stock market. Sorry, fundamental or technical? Can you put one or other in the chat so we can, because that's going to vary how we dive into this. Technical. Let's get technical. Okay, while I'm here, anybody have any other stocks they want me to cover while I'm adjusting this list before I jump into CVS? And everyone who's hung around so far, if you're still here, Holmes, appreciate you always sticking around for a long time. Pablo, if you're still here, you've been hanging out the whole time, really appreciate it. Gotcha. DG. It's DOGS. Dose. I roll technical. I know you do roll technical, bro. We the technical bros. Okay, CVS, technically speaking. Thanks for sticking around, Pablo. Appreciate it, bro. And I appreciate you commenting on my YouTube videos, because even though I got up, I know, thank you. People have been building the community on that YouTube channel quickly, which is awesome. But nobody comments. I'm like, you're not even gonna comment, bro? Why do you watch the video if you ain't got thoughts? Okay, let's look at some readings here. This thing been volatility, man. What the fuck? I remember when I first... okay, so... let's see here how they're looking. Is this Robot, is this a long-term hold, or are you just like doing like a couple months swing trade? Curious. Couple months. Gotcha. Alright, I'm posting stock twits. Give me a second. See if anybody else is curious about CVS. Okay, so yeah, we'll do. Oh, it works. Okay, so no position yet. Gotcha. So there's definitely some fundamental or some more long-term projected scenarios. There's some positivity here. I always talk about it, but the SMAs are stacked, which is good. I just removed the 50-day, but we have the 50-day up here, 100-day, 200-day. So that's still a pretty positive indicator, saying there's a lot of health in the chart. RSI is starting to break down a little bit, which is, I would say there's a couple scenarios here. Is either it needs to breathe some to, continue an uptrend eventually, or it's breaking down and this is the start of the breakdown. So I would say it's one of those scenarios. And I think time just going to have to tell us that story, which obviously sometimes we don't want to wait for time, but that's seeming like what the scenario might be. So we'll have to see if this RSI is just a reset to, let's see where support is. Looks like we are at, there's so many charts just hitting big support, which is really interesting. We just covered SoFi, and SoFi is also like hitting a super important support area. If you weren't here before, Robot, but I did say, I keep telling people, but my personal opinion, I think we are getting a correction in the coming months, couple months, 10%ish. So I hate sharing my opinion like that because I don't want my opinion to necessarily impact your trading strategy. But when people are asking me for more intermediate swing trades, I just have to communicate that because that's just my current opinion on things. So when we go in, the first thing I see outside of RSI is we did break below this kind of area. So as you can see, the stock really decided if it wanted to break out here or not. We see it break up, it back tests the breakout, and it broke out to the upside, which is a bullish sign. But we do see it come back down and break back down that support. So on the way up, we see a back test, but then on the way down, we see a back test as well to the downside. And so we did break below this 83 range, which is not a great sign. And it looks like we're in this vicinity of breaking below this support trend back from August or October of last year. Two heads are better than one. I feel you. We are testing the support line right here, so that's something that you're just going to want to keep an eye on. See if I can find another trend line. So there are some more, I would say, short-term, not as positive. It's in the clouds also, about to break to the bottom side. Yep. Are you looking at your charts? I agree, it is hard to break back above the cloud. So yeah, exactly what Holmes said on looking at a different technical indicator. It's basically telling the same story. Is it broke below what he's saying, the cloud, but here you see it's just a trend line, and you had to break up and then you had to break down, pretty similar pattern. I wouldn't really consider this a head and shoulders, but it kind of looks like it, but I don't think that's necessarily the story. But we're testing, I would say, a pretty important breakout, because when we look back in history, so the range where it was consolidating back here and it was deciding if it wanted to break up to the upside, you see right here that was super important range. And now we're coming into another important range that it needs to hold for two reasons. So one reason is you see all these candles at this red line. This was a really important price in the past where it couldn't break out above, and it failed multiple times. And so now that we're here again in the future, we have, like, I would call it like a double whammy, I guess is the best way to call it, is because we have support on the trend line, and we also have support, or we're hitting the trend, we're hitting the upward trend line. And so it really needs to hold this zone if it wants to move higher. But I would say there's a lot of negative momentum for this at the moment. And then usually when you see these really big, like, green candles, like when you don't see much volatility, if something breaks down in that range, it can violently move back down. So when you see one big candle pushing it higher, when it breaks back down below support, there's a high probability that it's going to break violently back down because there's not a lot of consolidation to try to keep the stock up. Oh, talking about the 3-8 trap. Nice. Dude, Holmes, you're like my secondary, more short-term, more detailed sidekick here. And what Holmes is saying, I think we were talking about this on last stream, is this 3-8 SMA 17 SMA kind of trap thing, which is much more technical, and that's why I typically don't talk about it on the stream. But yeah, man, Holmes, you're awesome, bro. But Holmes and I saying all these different aspects of this, it's not looking very good for this. And so if it does break, as I mentioned, we could see a violent breakdown of this support around 78. And then it's going to have to make another decision if it does break down. So watch for next week to see if it can hold or not. Yo, King, what up, bro? Coming back in here. Hey, I just want to tell everyone, King is a legend because yesterday he gifted us 15 subs. King is the legend of legends. Yeah. Yeah, I typically just talk about the 50, 100, and 200 day SMA on these streams to keep it a little less technical to not overwhelm people. But yeah, so I don't know. I would say question mark in terms of a buy right now. Yeah, he's a legend, bro. Out of nowhere, King Holmes just gifted 15 subs out of the blue. He's the GOAT for that. The all-time GOAT unless someone else breaks that record, but I don't know if that's going to happen. So yeah, look for this range to hold if you're still Hill Robot. If not, then I would wait because we do have the 100-day and trend line coming up at $78. So if it does break down and it holds, that'd be another potential entry point. I agree with Holmes. I would not buy it right now. Same sentiment. I try not to say I would or wouldn't buy Holmes on the stream. So you can say it, though. I'm just not going to say it. Okay. I want to say he asked me out. We'll do this Dog Z. So tell me about this Dog Z a little bit. I'm curious what they do. Let's bring it up. I know you say you're a technical trader, so let's look at the fundamental side. Dog Z. Let's see if any sites have analysis on them. They are sell fashionable dog and cat products. Low float penny. They sell fashionable dog products. Oh, interesting. Okay. So this is just a short-term trade for you. There's no point in looking at these detailed things. Where is... Oh, what's up, King? Background. So, career-wise, nothing related to the stock market. I work in digital marketing, which is a whole different world. But that has helped me. That has helped me understand, I think, psychology of people's thinking, which has helped me with swing trading in the stock market quite a bit. But yeah, background. I've been trading for like the last 10 years or so. American Airlines, I can do that. Charge. Welcome back, Charge, as well. But yeah, trading for about last 10 years or so. Kind of tried everything, from day trading, penny stocks, to swing trading, to long-term trading, both fundamentally and technically speaking. And so on Sunday streams, we typically break down into more of the technical side of charts. But if someone brings something up, we'll break down kind of like how the economy is looking or how the different sectors in the market is looking, like American Airlines for Charge. Like we'll kind of talk about how things are looking for them on every perspective, both fundamental and technical. Let me bring up the charts again to see what happened. Okay, so Where can you see your pet? Where you can see your pet on your phone. Oh, okay, gotcha. So they make smart pet products in China. Very cool. Yeah, it seemed like they made a variety of products. Oh, thanks, King. Appreciate it, man. But yeah, the first thing, obviously this seems like a, did my FinFizz go bye-bye? Nope, here it is. So this company, just real quick, I know you said it's a low flow. I'm assuming it's just a short-term swing trade or few day trade for you. Is that what it is, Holmes, or you're actually believe in this company more for the long term? Oh, 20 million share float. Oh yeah, that's tiny. Their PE ratio actually ain't bad if that's true. 7 PE ratio. If that's a true number, that's kind of, that looks looking pretty good actually. Yep, swing. Gotcha. I mean, they're definitely expecting some growth. The analysts are expecting some growth this year, which is not bad. Oh, they're expecting to go EBITDA positive this year. This is not EBITDA, but it's EBIT. EBIT positive. So not before. Yep, swing trade. So, I mean, they're going to go EBIT positive. That's a pretty, I mean, that's kind of legit. You also don't know about the Chinese companies because they don't have to account by the same accounting practices, but, you know. But yeah, 20 million is crazy low. What kind of volume have they got recently? Oh, pretty small volume. Oh yeah, their baby volume. Let's see. They had a big day a couple weeks ago at 18 million. Oh my gosh, the whole float traded. What's your main question on this, Holmes? Did you just want to talk about it, or did you have a specific question? Just curious. Just so I'm, because there's a million directions we could look at. Yeah, it's my only Chinese stock. I figured I could at least own one in that country. I mean, ironically, the thing about this company is really interesting. So I guess the first thing I would say is, where are we at? June. Is it definitely kind of looks like when it gets momentum, it moves. You know, it's just kind of like a short trade type company. You know, from the looks of it. I was wondering if you thought it was gonna pop soon. Okay, so we did have big short interest. You know, when I look at these kind of pump and dumps or these short-term penny stocks, the first thing I want to look at is if it's been basing, and if it's been basing and there's a high short float, there's a high probability that it might get pumped higher. That's one thing I always look at. And so we did see the short volume pull back pretty significantly, which, I mean, I think they have a pretty short float regardless. Yeah, 1%. So these numbers don't really matter in terms of volume, you know. So there's probably not going to be really many short squeezes on this guy. So I think typically with these guys that go parabolic, you really, I personally just want to see short interest pretty high so that those shorts have to cover, or like you said, a short float. So at least lately, let me see if they have any news or anything happen. Dogs adds 3 new distributions to meet growth. So that's one thing, a short interest, and if the stock's basing. It's not really basing. It's kind of been stair-stepping upwards, you know. We can look at this chart. We see lower highs or like stair-stepping. So we have, you know, sideways, stair-step up, stair-step up. So it's kind of been stair-stepping upwards. And I think the reason it has, it's actually not that bad of a valuation, ironically speaking, because you would think that this is just a BS company. But if their financials are correct, like they're expecting this company to be EBITDA positive, and the future PE is at a 7, which is pretty crazy. So technically, like fundamentally speaking, this is an extremely cheap company, which you wouldn't you wouldn't kind of necessarily think this for it. I guess it turns into a low hold with steady. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would just put a stop loss on it If it breaks, it looks like if it breaks below this 206, you're looking at technical indicators as well. But if it holds this 206, if I would trade this, it's been stair stepping. So, up, stair step, up, stair step, up, stair step. And so we're going to need another up soon. I guess you could consider this an up, stair step, up, stair step, up, stair step. I wouldn't necessarily call that a up because it's just one big red candle, but I would say we're going to need it to hold this trend line and do another stair step up and then like this. Because that's been the trend lately. And so that seems like, because this is such a low traded company, like when we look at the volume, I have to zoom in to see the volume. I mean, what's this volume? 230K shares in a day. Like, that's so little volume. But the chart honestly doesn't look that bad, and the valuation doesn't look that bad. And if their main business is like dog cams are big, and they're even getting bigger. Obviously, with people being home, maybe they're not using their remote cams as much. But if people go back to the office, like, there could be another growth in demand for dog cams. So, ironically, because I didn't expect when you talked about a low float penny to be like legit, but fundamentally it doesn't look that bad. So, I think the trend reversal would be to me if this stair step ends. And it looks like for that stair step to end, it needs to break below this 206 range, which it's been testing lately. So, yeah, that's what I would be looking for. But I could definitely see, it looks like what it likes to do is when it goes sideways, it likes to get back to the trend line, So, popped higher to trend line, pop higher. And so we're probably going to want to see it hit the trend line and pop higher again to hold the current trend line. So 206 range would be a stop loss, and if that's the case, forget about it and keep an eye on it to see if it breaks lower, because the valuation actually doesn't look too bad, which is an ironic statement coming out of my mouth. Yeah, dude, I'm actually, it's obviously super tiny, and so like, who knows, but 28 million, I think is that 28 million? Yeah, 28 million next year, which that's this year, 48% growth. If they actually hit that number, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good growth, If historically speaking, back when they weren't making any money, people said it was worth, that's during COVID, that doesn't count. Let's go back further. Pump and dump on the long-term chart. But, I mean, when they were making no money, they were $3 a share. And if this company is actually getting to a point where it's legit, it could keep stair-stepping upward. Based on this price action, I'm curious if they like to do share offerings often. I would look into on the fundamental side and see if they like to do share offerings, because if they like to do that, then we could see some violent moves to the downside. But that's the only thing I would be looking at. But it's very interesting. I'm going to keep this on my watch list. Thank you for that stock call out. How long have we been going for? 2 hours. Okay. I got maybe another 30 minutes, so let's get through these things. GME. Who asked me about GME? I can't remember. Was it Pablo? It was Pablo. Pablo, you still here? Pablo. He is here. Let me put a message in the Stocky Twits real quick. Paulo. Maybe Paulo's taking a poo or something. Me. That would be technical analysis, chart analysis. I'm not trying to roast you or anything. You obviously weren't taking a poo, but I just thought it was a funny moment for a joke. And you said just you just said more technical and sentiment, if I remember correctly. Like I'm here with her talking. I forget that the stream is delayed like 3 seconds. So if I don't hear a response, I just assume somebody went somewhere else. We were talking about dogs, yeah. Dude, everyone should keep an eye on dogs. It's an interesting play. Jesus. You still want me to cover GME, right? We gotta have some fun. We can't just be all boring and technical, you know? We gotta build this bond between us by talking about poo every once in a while. You know? But sentiment, I mean, when you talk about sentiment, I think the easiest way to... Oh yeah, Charge, you said... What were you saying earlier too, Charge? My bad. Let me write that real quick. Where's that other message? American Airlines. American Airlines and BRN. We already covered CVS. And again, I'll say, if you sub to the channel, your request goes to the top of the list. Just a heads up, everybody. BRN. Okay, we can do one before the other. But we're going to go with GME for the meantime, because our MVP Pablo of the day has been waiting a while. Okay, so, I mean, you said sentiment, so I'm curious, what do you guys think? What do you guys think about GME? Do you think, you know, we'll talk about sentiment as a group. Do you guys think that it died down and, you know, a lot of the hype around it is kind of, you know, we're just not having it anymore, just having a beer and hanging? Nice. But yeah, do you guys think the sentiment is kind of dying down? I mean, we can go to StockTwits. That's, I think, the easiest way. Two things. One, we'll go to StockTwits, and second, we'll go to GME. See how active people are. So we see message volume is down, and I think that's... Yeah, I don't mess with GME either, but let's talk about it. So we do see sentiments down, so that's something important. You know, people aren't watching it as much, or they're not really, the hype is not there. So if you're trying to buy it off of momentum, the momentum's just not there right now. You know, people just aren't posting as much. 10 minutes ago, yeah, you know, 20 minutes ago, you know, there's like 10 minutes between its message on here. I like volatility, but not short squeeze all the time. Yeah, there's just a lot of gaps. You know, people just aren't thinking about GME right now, and I think part of that is because AMC has been exploding. And AMC has taken away a lot of the hype from GME. Where is... Got too many damn windows open. GME short interest. I mean, we'll see how even valuable this is to look at, because people say that all the short interest is off the main... so not a ton of short interest right now, at least on the market. People are saying like dark web and shit and all those things. So who knows if, you know, there's things happening behind the curtain, but at least here there's just not a whole lot of short interest from what we can see. Let's see how many shares GME has. I know they've been doing... What's up, Blank Stonks? So yeah, I would say right now it looks like it's just consolidating. Pretty low short interest, at least on the market. So that's probably not going to be having too much impact. You know, it says short float's at 16%. That's pretty decent. I think they were doing some share offerings, so I don't know if that's. Let's go on TA on Twitter. Let's go on ATA on Twitter. Where'd you find me, Blake? I'm just curious. I don't recognize your name. So you came from somewhere new. I like to use, so FinViz usually has a decently updated, stocks on Twitch. Nice, man. Welcome to the stream. FinViz usually has a decent, like I would say maybe the most recent, or like recent short float. Just Google GME short interest and this website called Fintel will come up, and you can see short volume by shares. And so that's the second way I do it. I kind of try to use those to balance out against each other. I think there's another one. I think it's called shortinterest.com. It only pops up sometimes for me. Oh, here it is. Yep, shortsqueeze.com. So yeah, short squeeze says 16%. So those are the three sites that I use to kind of like bounce each other off. If I see any big like discretion between those, then I kind of like have to investigate a little bit more. But I see 16% on two, so that tells me that that's probably somewhat close to where the short interest is on the stock. But going into sentiment some more, 22 hours ago, 13 hours ago, 11 days ago, 4 hours. So, I mean, not as hype, kind of like stock twits. It's just not as crazy as it has been. Short interest has increased since at 12%. There you go. Yeah, not a huge 12% is not really going to make something go parabolic. You really need 40, 50 plus % short to make something really blast off parabolically. So I would say, and I think that makes sense with what we're seeing on the chart. Oh, thanks, Blake. I need to get a mic hooked up to my computer when I do Sunday nights because I don't have my headset on, so I can't hear the follows. But also sub. If you have an Amazon Prime, sub to the page. It would be appreciated. It does look like we're coming into some support area, which is important to look at. Holmes, I don't know if you want to break down your little 3-8 on the chart, but I'm doing more long term for this scenario. But it does look like we're coming up on an important trend line to the upside. We're testing it right now, so that could be a potential indicator for more downside in the near future. If we look at RSI, I'm snapping too loud into the mic. 10 million open interest. Gotcha. 615. It's kind of been, so what we see historically speaking is we see a correlation. What's a good catalyst for GameStop moving upward? I mean, they have no debt and they are able to raise 1.2 billion. Yeah, so long term, well, first is I don't think they're worth $200 a share. I'm about to sneeze, everybody. I don't think they're worth $200 a share. One second, everyone. But I think we can all agree that they're not worth $200 a share. It's obviously a lot more going on behind the scenes that have pushed this stock up, and we're all on the same page there. It's a no buy for the algos. So Holmes saying the algos won't be pumping this thing anytime soon. Any of you guys having crazy allergies lately? I since going outside post COVID, I've been having crazy allergy attacks all the time. Now it's not a thick cloud, but it's gonna need volume. Yeah, that makes sense. And volume's been pretty low. even during this most recent move, like if you compare the volume back here with these massive moves, like it needs 150 million or plus a day for it to move, and we've been trending around the 2 million. Thank you, Pablo. We've been trending around the 2 million, and so obviously that's a huge gap between where we need to be for the stock to move. It's moved off, 17 million, but there was probably maybe a higher short float around that time. That's just a guess. But I'm assuming when the market pulled back in May that the short interest increased across all stocks, but probably in GME as well. And so the stock was able to move on lower buy volume because maybe there was some covering. I don't know. That's just some speculation. But yeah, we're there. And then I think it kind of, we're just seeing a lot of the same charts with everything. I think it's almost every chart we've covered today. SoFi, PaySafe. What other ones did we cover that had the same trend? I deleted all the names off the screen, but we're testing these important. We're testing this important range. A lot of consolidation. When it failed, it went down and sideways. Yep. Yeah, I was about to try to look at that more short-term wedge. And again, we're in that same. We're kind of testing right above that consolidation zone. And so we're definitely going to want to hold there. Yeah, we got a little short-term wedge. Good call out. Yeah, I know AMC has been consolidating as well. And I haven't looked at AMC yet, but I'm assuming it looks similar on the charts. I'm assuming we're maybe testing a support range and we're maybe testing an upward trend line. That's my guess. But I guess we've covered like 10 stocks tonight, and I guess it can tell why you guys think. I would say my argument of why I'm feeling more bearish in the short term, I guess we've been telling the story of that, is because a ton of stocks are testing this support range. And unless we see this hold up, then a lot of stocks are going to be breaking down. And I'm more in the camp over the next couple of weeks we're going to see things break down, but we're just going to have to see over the next couple of weeks if all these stocks we've been covering hold their major support zones or not. If they don't, then we'll see a little correction in these names. So definitely RSI is not looking too healthy. As Holmes said, the algos aren't trading it right now. We're in a little wedge, so we'll have to see if it holds up. Gotcha. Yep. Sell on the Ichi cloud. We're still above. Obviously the stock has moved ridiculously, so I would say the 200-day and the 100-day are not good indicators for the short term, but for long-term pullbacks, they could be areas. But realistically speaking, with all the delusion that this company has done, I would have to look at fair value, but I'm assuming they're probably worth like $10 to $20, probably. That's just a guess without looking at fundamentals, but that's probably true value. But I think if GME can really get into the digital side of things, which they've been talking about as a company, then that could really help the business, because they've kind of, I would say GME struggled with what Blockbuster struggled with, is the world became digital and they didn't. And that's the same story we're seeing with GME. And so they've been talking about management coming in to really explore and develop the digital side of the business. And so if the stock has a big pullback, and I'm hearing from management that they're going to start digitalizing the business, then it could be a really great long-term play once all the hype dies out. That's a long-term perspective to keep on it if they do digitalize the business. AMC, we'll quickly look at it, but I'm pretty sure it's the same chart. This actually looks quite a bit different. Obviously, these SMAs are no help, but Holmes can look at the short term for everybody with the short term EMAs and figure out what's happening with them. But yeah, we have a little try for a breakdown here, it looks like. I don't know what it did after hours because I don't get after hour on this, but have a downtrend. It looks like it broke below the triangle. And it came back up. Yeah, I was surprised it was still above the cat. Yeah, that's pretty surprising. Yeah. I mean, I think the NFT thing is everyone's doing NFTs at this point, so I don't know how much benefit that's going to have for the business. I think that's more of a hype. But I do like the e-commerce side and the digitalization aspect. So the stock did break below kind of a descending or a downward triangle. So I would say that's bearish in the short term. But we did have a giant wick, if this is correct. 60-70% range, yeah. Yeah, nothing's 100%. You just never know 100% of the time what's going to happen. It's always a most likely, high probability this is going to happen type thing. But yeah, there's not much. I mean, we can try to draw some trend lines here if this is helpful, but these trend lines aren't telling us much because of the violent move to the upside. If we do draw a trend line, like maybe that's happening. We'll have to see what this big red wick is gonna tell us. Yeah, safe bet is sell AMC. I agree. That's definitely the safe bet. But any news, yeah. That's why I don't play them, because it's either a giant sell or a giant buy, and I don't want to play with a stock that has that much volatility. It's more of a luck of the draw type thing. But there's some negativity heading into this, but we'll have to. I think it's going to confirm over the next couple weeks. I think RSI is looking like it wants to confirm soon. If it's heading into a bearish momentum. Yeah, I think it's great. I think that's the thing. If GME's price comes down from $200 to like $10 or something, and they're building e-commerce, I'll be a fan. But I'm not going to buy at $200 even though they're building out e-commerce. I'm definitely not going to be doing that. But I think kind of like what we've been talking with everything is some of these stocks have broken out of support. This one broke below support. Thanks for hanging around, Charge. I'll get to it right now. I'm not trading this. It seems like more of a gamble as it's breaking below support lines. BRN. Cool. Let's cover BRN. Go in depth. Okay. Just fundamental or also or just technical or also fundamental? And is it a long-term trade or is it a short-term trade for you? Short-term technical, some fundamental. Okay. And if you guys have friends that would love this, we're continuing to trying to grow the community. So if you have buddies that you think are going to be fans of what we do, please invite them. Invite them to the streams. Tell them about the Twitch streams, or if you haven't yet, join our Discord. It's slowly becoming more active. So yeah, we're trying to grow the community. So tell your homies and buddies. Okay, let me look at this. King. Who's this King? We got so many kings out here, bruh. Yeah, I agree with you. People think that hedge funds aren't controlling what's going on, but they are. It's just people think like, yeah, maybe one or two hedge funds got the short end of the stick, but there's 100 other hedge funds that are making money. So, I mean, yeah. Okay, it's a short-term trade. Sorry, let me get back to your message. Technical, some fundamental. Okay. Let me just do a little background on the company because I don't think I know what this company is. Maybe just please follow, please sub. All the support is awesome. This is my YouTube channel if you guys are curious, if you haven't been there yet and you're in the chat. Daily videos Go check that out. Chill Deal Trades. Okay, BRN. What is BRN? BRN. Let's do a little bit of fundamental stuff just so we can get an idea of what they do. Okay, nothing here. The Croatia company is acquired developer sells. Oh, it's an oil gas play. Yeah, that was a big red candle. There could definitely be a little more bullish action off that big red candlestick. Okay, so they're oil and gas company. Let's look at how they look as a company fundamentally. I had a big red day, but then they moved up after hours a little bit. Okay, what's their 24 million market cap? They do 18 million a year, so it's more of like a more value, a value play. Is that what it is? Charge. Oil and gas value play, ish. Okay, a lot of consolidation lately. Do they make money? They did not make money this last year. It's a rebound to the recent collapse play. Gotcha. It's not the BRL he is talking about. A good entry point at dogs now is probably where the price is and put a stop loss. I think it was around 206 or $2, but you can verify that with Holmes. Is this the right BRN? Just has a bar. Yeah, that's right. Oh, it's probably wrong on this one. Yep. Barnell. Here we go. Okay. See how short interest on this sucker's looking. See if there's anything to be worrisome. Oh, super low flow. Okay. So this is super low flow, which is interesting. So if they get any volume whatsoever, it can definitely catapult this thing, which is interesting. 3 million is tiny. If that's the right float, that's insane. That's super tiny float. So, volume how they had recently 4 million. What the fuck? Tops, lol. Yeah, I don't know if that floats right. Maybe they did a share offering or something recently. I don't get news on this. Could break back above. Yeah, let's look technically. Let's see how it's looking. Let's draw some trend lines. So the first thing we want to see is we want to see the RSI come back above this 50 range to show some positive momentum. Looks like this is like a consolidation zone for RSI, so I'm gonna want to see it. I'm seeing 8 million total, 3 million float. Yeah, I think that was right. Yeah, that's freaking baby float, dude. That's crazy. I mean, if you think good news is coming out, this is definitely one to hold because this thing will rocket ship on good news. First time here. Are you more of a swing trader or day trader? We talk about more swing trades on the stream. I talked about it a few times, but my background is I've done a little bit of everything. And so we started doing free for all Sundays a couple weeks ago, just to talk about technicals of charts and talk about fundamentals as a group, see what's going on with stocks. You found on Finviz, gotcha. Yeah, super tiny float. So I would say that can be a positive and a negative because to the upside, it could be a positive, but also to the downside. Like, it doesn't need much volume. Like on Friday, it moved 10% on 900K volume. So it doesn't take much to move this stock. Yeah, it looks like we're at the 100-day. Let me see where the 50-day is. Oopsie. 50-day. I'm going to do EMAs here, actually. Let me do one EMA so we can get... Yes, I understand I need Trading Pro, dude. If you guys want to donate to the stream and I can get Trading Pro for all of our streams, that would be awesome. And then we can be real fancy. Okay, let's look at the 50 days. Okay, 50-day. How ironic. Support at 246 BRM. Yeah, we're at really big support right now. So we're at the 50-day EMA and the 100-day SMA, which is going to be really big support. And then you also have obviously huge support in all these areas. Like if you just do a little green line, look at all the support. Like there's so many candles in that range. So we have 2 moving averages and we have a huge support zone, but we also had a really big red. So we have a really big red candle and RSI is still really high. And so this could easily get pushed lower because RSI is still really high, seeing this really big red nasty day. When you see big green candles or big red candles, that can be like a big red candle with no wicks tells me that there's a lot of selling pressure. And so we'll have to see how Tuesday opens because I think the market's closed tomorrow. So we'll have to see if this opens up with a lot more selling pressure or not. I would like to buy it depending on volume and candle at the time. Are we all talking about the same thing? Or are we talking about 2 stocks at once? I think we're all talking about the same thing. Yeah, if it breaks below here, yeah, 250-ish range, big support. Gotcha. Yeah, dude, it's freaking super micro float. I don't know the last time I looked at a 2 million float company. So we have a couple supports coming up that you're going to want to look out for if it can hold. I would buy at 275 with good volume and a bullish candle, yeah. Yeah, it looks like 275 is the next support area. But we're at a really important price right now. And the reason I say that is, like I said, we have a trend line basically testing at that price. My candle's a little off, but basically we're basically hitting the trend line, we're hitting the SMAs, and we're hitting the support range. So if it does break below all of this, we could see another violent push downwards. 10% was that 36 cents? So yeah, we could definitely see another 10% move to the downside where Holmes was talking about, which is around that 275. So yeah, I would say 275 is I forgot the name already. Oh, Charge. There we go, Charge. Do you already hold the company Charge, or you found it on FinViz as a potential buy? Just looking, gotcha. Yeah, it's a tough chart. This is something that you're gonna have to keep a really close eye on because the float is so short. It won't take much for this stock to move because of the float. So this is just something you have to really keep a really close eye on. But like everyone's been saying in the chat, 275 is, I would say, we don't know for sure, but there's a really high probability that this is going to break lower because of this big red candle. There's a lot of negative momentum on that Friday. But I think after hours it did close above a little bit. Yeah, it moved back up 4% after hours. Yeah, I can go fast either way. We did see it go up after hours back to 310. I don't know where it ended. Cause I don't. Oh yeah, it did. Yeah, 310. So it did push back a little bit off that red candle. So let's see where 310 is. 310 is up here. So back in kind of the consolidation zone, you know, back in consolidation zone. So we'll see if it can hold that. If not, that big red candle, like Holmes is saying, is really ugly. It's not the most encouraging. Like, let's look at big red candles in the past. Big red candle, downward momentum. Big red candle, followed by like a big nasty candle and then a reversal. Big red candle, more downside. Big red that's a lot of wick there. That doesn't really count. And then big red candle. So it's not looking pretty. But again, we'll say 275 support. If it breaks below that, the next big support is at 250. That's the next big range. But I would say if it can't get back above $3, then it wouldn't be a buy for the long term. And the reason I say that is because it's such an important price. I think for this stock to go up, in the long term, it really needs to stay above this $3 price point. So that's what I would be looking for. Yeah, I couldn't hold on Thursday. We had this guy right here. There's a lot of buying. It was 4 million. It was a lot of trading that day, and there was enough buying momentum. Which this candle is not pretty. Also, this is a pretty bearish candle also, but cool. Okay, I have time for one more thing. Do you guys want me to go over the S&P 500 to end the stream and the NASDAQ? Because I've been talking about it so much. Just to end the stream on AALL. Okay, let's just quickly look. So there's a lot of negative momentum in the airlines right now. And I think it's because they ran up into the reopening. And now I think they're pulling back from the reopening. And I think they got a little bit too much positive momentum on the reopening. But I mean, it's the same story that we've been talking on every stock, is that it's in a support zone. Literally every stock we've talked about today is in a support zone, a very crucial support zone. As we can see, if the stock does not stay above this area, it's probably going lower. And so we really need it to hold here for the stock to go higher. We already broke below this trend line, which is not a good sign. That's some negativity. Yeah, nice talking to you, Pablo. I think you subbed, which I appreciate, or you followed, which I appreciate, and happy 4th to you as well, man. I hope you have a great week and a great trading week. So broke below the trend line, and we need to hold this zone. So just watch for this $20 price range area. I would say 20 to 21. We need to hold that range for more positive momentum. Okay, so the first thing I want to look at is the QQQ to SPY ratio. So this is something that I've been keeping an eye on quite a bit lately. Let me do another stock twitch spam real quick. That's not what I did. Anybody put any fire? Anybody do some fireworking tonight? Curious. I did not. I'm not a big fireworker personally. I see some going off out there though, in the distance. I think still got my window open. Okie dokie. Heard some, yeah. Text. Okay, so something I talked about this last week. I think I talked about it on the stream. I talked about it somewhere that I thought that we would continue to see. I mean, I called it on the fucking. Sorry, I called it on. I got too excited there. I called it on the hammer. Last week I said I think there's going to be continuous positive momentum for tech because of this ratio. And what did we see this week for big tech? You know, the QQQ names, Facebook, Google. These things roared last week. There literally are too many kings. There literally are too many kings. We got a lot of them. People like the name king in their name for some reason. So this is something I would suggest everybody to keep an eye on, is this QQQ to SPY ratio. Because it's going to tell us if the tech keeps outperforming the rest. Big tech, I should say, keeps outperforming the market or not. Yeah, historically. There we go. Pulling some history as well. These things, I mean, we could see this come back to the trend line a little bit maybe this week. There's a possibility of that. Ooh, itchy nose again. But we are holding this trend line, so we could just continue up this trend line more. In my personal opinion, I don't think we're going to break these all-time highs again in this ratio. I don't think we're going to get enough momentum. But I think it's worth a look for. It looks like there's a lot of resistance up here, which is at about 0.84 on this. Yeah, it's way too parabolic. I agree. But dude, like, honestly, there's so much euphoria in the market right now. Like, I was looking at AAII bearish sentiment. I don't know if you guys ever look at this. This is something I always keep an eye on to figure out if it's a good time to short or not. And so this past week, I need to blow this up a little bit. This past week, oh my gosh, did I exit out of all my windows? Son of a gun. Bruh. Okay, I ain't got enough time to put that back up. I literally deleted out of all my windows. No. 1 second, guys. I don't know how that happened. What a bunch of bologna sandwich. I got too hype and I did something. Yeah. It is scary to play right now, especially SQQ. I agree. I started a small SQQ position, which I'm down on, but I'm all right with that. I'm planning on holding it longer. There we go. Okay, QQQ divided by SPY. So, yeah, I mean, it does seem like that tech could continue to go more parabolic. There's just so much. I was trying to bring it up, but if you guys had never heard of it, it's called the AAII bearish indicator, and it kind of tells you how much bullishness, bearishness, or neutral weighted hype is in the market. And so we're basically we're starting to get to a level where there's too much bullishness, which tells me that a correction, along with my technical charting, tell me that it's coming in the near future. So I think we could see a little bit more action here out to, you know, we could definitely see some crazy moves higher. You know, I'm telling you, around the end of July-ish range is where I'm kind of looking at the markets to have a little pullback. And so we kind of see this kind of range come onto the chart, you know, out into the mid to late July. If we go a little bit higher, you know, out to late July, if this trend line continues, and then I think we could get a little pullback. So yeah, I'm really waiting to short. With all the small names I was talking about that have, you know, the PLTRs of the world, the SoFis, all of the stocks that we've been talking about. This chart is really important to look at. Oh my gosh, I lost all my freaking indicators. This is annoying. This is what happens when you use the free version of something. You don't get to save things, and I think we're testing the 200-day if I remember as well. Is it the 200-day? I think it's a 200-day simple moving average. Yeah, end of July, early August. Yeah, I agree with you, Holmes. That's the time frame I'm looking for, and I've been talking about for a little while. But this is an important chart to look at for how these small growth names are going to perform. You know, the Russell 2000 names is they've been on a pretty significant downtrend, and so if we see this support hold, this is my indicator if I'm gonna buy into some of these PLTRs, NNDMs, SoFis of the world, is if next week we see this support hold and a bounce back up, then we'll start to see, I would say, probably a 5 to 10% upward move in some of these names over the coming weeks. If we see this chart hold this support for these Russell 2000 type stocks, these smaller mid cap names. But this is a really important chart to look at, because if we do break this already, then I think the downtrend for the smaller names is starting before the rest of the market. Or we see something like this, you know, we'll see a downtrend there. So that's a ratio I like, but we can go into the, let's go into the SPY first real quick. So one thing I always look at, let's do the SPX actually. Oh, whatever, bro. Whatever. SPY it is. So one thing that I've been looking at is every time that RSI gets into overbought range, what that means for the stock. So overbought, and we're getting to this range. If we get into that overbought, say in the next couple weeks, and let's do some analysis on that. What happens every time on the daily chart it got overbought? What happened? Every time it got overbought, we saw a small pullback. And so here we saw obviously a much bigger correction. I think we're probably going to get one of these because it's been a while. All these last pullbacks that we saw, they haven't been more than 5%. And so we're really due for a pullback that's, I think, more than 5%. Something more in this range, which I don't know what this math is. Do I have my calculator over here? I do not. But it went from 358 to 320. So that was a 10% correction right here. So I think we have a potential to mimic something like this coming up in the next couple weeks. Historically, next week will be very slow. Nice, good to know on the indicators. Yeah, that's why we've moved so parabolically recently. This is where I'm not too sure. I think there's a couple scenarios. I think one scenario is we move slightly higher and then we start going sideways. You know, we often see some topping before we move lower, and then we'll see like a little pullback. I think that's one scenario if we do see some slowing into the rest of July, because it's just gone so parabolic. I don't know how much longer we can hold this parabolic move, and the NASDAQ looks even worse. So I'll be looking for something up here into the next couple weeks. Is like 439 on SPY. But like I said, just look at the chart. Every time we hit overbought, we see a pullback. There's been 4 times this last year, and every time we've seen, besides this one, this isn't really much of a pullback, but these 2 ones where we saw really overbought, we saw, and the last significant pullback wasn't until last September. That's so long ago that I think that we're in dire need in the next couple weeks. I think that, if I believe so, the same story here when we look at the overbought times. Obviously, we have the COVID crash. But now look where we're at. Look how high we're at on the daily. That's insane. We're at a 74. And when we look, historically speaking, 74, 77, besides that one break higher, this 74 to 70, 77 to 74 range is about the peak that we've seen in the past, besides this real high one in the COVID. And when we look at the peaks, what do we see? Same thing. We see a pullback, and that's why I'm guarantee a pullback is coming in the next few weeks. We're getting to a place that's unsustainable. And I would say the higher the RSI goes, the larger potential pullback we have. You know, obviously we see ridiculous numbers here, the COVID crash. I don't think we'll get a COVID crash. I don't think that was a freak accident. But we're getting into this range. If we go any higher, and it looks like there might be more momentum for these tech names. But if we go any higher, I think we're going to get another 10% crash. So say we go up another, let's draw some trend lines for potential price target on this guy. Top of this candle, 303.50. 350, that's close enough. Okay, so say we still have quite a bit of a range here, which is pretty crazy. It's even higher. Yeah, so somewhere up in this, like 370 might be the top of this. So if we go 370, so 37 points down. So 330. So yeah, we can see a pullback to 330. I think would be a 10%. I think that's 10%. That'd be a 10% correction. Should be back around here, which is obviously a significant area. We can see all these candles. Yeah, I expect a slow week for the most part. That's why I play ship off the cloud bounce. Gotcha. So, yeah, I mean this is what I'm thinking for the market, and I think there's some similar thoughts here as well. But those are kind of my views. Just the RSI. All you have to do is the RSI analysis, and that's enough data to tell you that we potentially don't have much more upside left. So just look at it. Yeah, that's a low float. Yeah, that's a low float. Yeah. So that's all I have for you guys, though. We've been on 3 hours. I was not expecting to be on 3 hours tonight, but that's okay. Because the market's closed tomorrow, I'm also going to do a live stream tomorrow night. So we'll be doing the same thing. We'll be doing technical analysis on live stream. So if you want to come hang out again, feel free. Hopefully not 3 hours next time. But once people just pop in here and they have a ton of questions, and I'm such a nerd when it comes to this technical charting. I'm happy Holmes, you're on the same boat as me, and I know King Baboon, you're getting more in depth on it as well. So it's fun having some back and forth with you guys on things, and we can all find stock picks. You know, let's all win together. No problem, King. Yeah, thanks for hopping. I know you're another King. We have like 12 Kings. Where'd you find us at again? I forgot. If you haven't yet, King, I do daily videos on my YouTube channel, so feel free to join that as well. I'll be doing a market update video on that tomorrow, actually. Yeah, great stream. I like that. RB, I'm going to keep an eye on it. Yeah, BRM's an interesting one. Has a little bit of pull. And buy some more dogs. Yeah, dogs not looking bad. Dogs at that big support line. Yeah, below 2. Where's it at? 212. So yeah, 6% downside. That's not bad. 6-ish%. Buy on the dip. So, but yeah, that's all I got for you guys. Thanks for coming by again. I'll be here tomorrow tonight, probably around the same time, around 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So come there as well. And if you guys have Amazon, please connect your accounts and hit a sub on Discord or on Twitch. It's super encouraging and helpful just to get those subs, get some more people to the channel. But that's all I got for you guys. Hope you guys had a great 4th. Thanks for joining me on the 4th, and I'll talk to you guys again tomorrow if you swing by. Night, everyone.